as mentioned on my poor handwriting, you've got if you wanted to be done, essentially you could be done. Like if I'm writing here, let's do this. I'm gonna write in Lexi Brown at
Could
your
doesn't
two.
mean should, but
Fascinating.
okay.
What'd you say?
I said could doesn't mean should.
No. No. So that's a full roster. You've got your injured friends over there. That sucks. Um, you got a full roster. Okay. Um, you've got what, 4 picks in this draft and 4 picks in next year's draft, 3 of them being in the first round. So if Talisa Ray, I'm going to use my swear word now, prepare your ears. If you really wanted to make shit shake, you've got 3 first round picks to play with next year. And I don't know what LA does. Like, I don't know how they're going to end up because you've got their first rounder, right? As Christian mentioned a while ago, you've got their future. Um, I don't know. I don't know what this looks like. Like Marina Mabrey requested a trade. I don't really think that is a realistic trade unless Talisa works some magic. Even then, how well does the backcourt of Skylar Diggins-Smith and Marina Mabrey how well does that gel together, right? I mean, just being purely honest.
They don't
You
end
know,
up becoming friends like she did DNA, I'll tell
with
you that
Dejanay,
much.
yeah. I
No,
mean, maybe
that's
we'll
nuts.
get more of her cooking TikToks here in Seattle and have her like Skylar try them. I don't know. Um, in a great world, in a magical fantasy world, like somehow you land Paige. That's a fantasy world, though. I think Olivia Miles would be great. Like, I really do. But like Rowan mentioned, there's a lot of guards going on here, and realizing some of them are on training camp. Yes, like so that can just go away like that. But I don't know. I think I'm gonna ask you, and this time because I've done Christian first the last 2 times, so I'm sorry. But I'm gonna go Rowan Christian, and sake of some fairness. Where you're at with this roster. We've already kind of touched on it, but I want to know I'm putting you in the Talisa shoes right now. Um, and seeing what you do with it because like looking at the across the timeline available players, Victoria Vivian is out there. There's some
Can't do that,
interest.
Charles. We're turning the page, remember?
eh, eh, ah, oh, okay. Like she wouldn't sign here, but Kennedy Carter's available. Like, there's some interesting names out there, names they already know, like Kayla Davis. As we talked about last show, Dulcie is out there. Izzy Harrison still available, as much as I can hope and dream. Um, I don't know. There's some fast. Oh, Dee Dee Richards is still out there. That's fascinating. We talked about Katie Lou Samuelson last week. Um, Kiana Williams. You could. There are some awkward reunions you could come up with. Um, and then again, to go back to what we mentioned in the beginning, Talisa said that, well, they both said free agency's not done and that, they something could be on the way. How do you view this team right now and what would you do with the resources available? Rowan, I'll go with you, and then Christian, I'll go with you again to put you in these shoes. Because I know I've already talked to you about Erica and Lexi and where they'd fit in, but I mean, what you're gonna need spot for your number 2 pick. Um, and I don't know if you're able to find a diamond in the rough in the later rounds, but yes, I don't know. It's a fun question to think about. Like, I'm glad we can do this. When it comes to Mariner stuff, I didn't have I already swore. I didn't have shit to talk about in their offseason. I was like, okay, you made 2 actual offseason signings. And I was done. Here, I'm like, you've got draft picks to play with. You've got the number 2 pick. Ooh, I can do all these things. There, not so much. So, Rowan, yeah, we'll get back on track.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like I'm thinking back to the 2015, 2016 years, which is insane that that's 10 years ago now. But just thinking back to that, where you have just that year before where you're kind of like, that 2015 year with Jewel, obviously it's super exciting. You have a number 1 pick, but you also know that there's still, something to come. And I think like we said, it was a lot of PR. You always have to be. You're never going to say, oh, we're not going to be in championship contention this year. But I do think, I think it's okay to say, we're really focusing on the future right now. And I don't feel like that's what they're saying. And I guess what I mean by that is I think that if you were really gonna put everything around this number two pick, look ahead to the three in the first round next season, there's no reason not to kind of diversify who you're bringing in instead of not just having guards. It's just confusing to me a little bit, and it's kind of like, I think why not try an Izzy Harrison? Why not, try a Dulcie, something like that, especially with Dulcie, again, like we talked about, money's an issue now with some new signings. So why not bring on someone who would still be on a rookie contract? I also mentioned this before we were recording. There was, I think, one mention of Kenzie Holmes during that presser, and I would have been interested to hear a little bit more. I wasn't available to ask a question. I was just listening, but I would have been interested to ask a little bit more what they're looking at with her and what they see in her because we haven't really talked about her obviously since she was drafted a year ago. So I guess really I'm just interested what they're I would have liked to hear a little bit more emphasis on the long-term plan and less, I guess what you're saying when you're actually breaking down the stats of, Erica and Lexi, who I felt like were the ones that were the most emphasized the whole presser, it's kind of like, I wish that the perspective was shifted a bit more onto the draft pick and the future instead of kind of trying to like honestly force the pieces that you have into these boxes of something that you need, if that makes sense. It's like, oh, we need three-point shooting. Here are the people that we got, which again, I'm going to go out on the limb and say are not the people that they were necessarily looking for, if they had the whole league to go from, and just being like, that's what we're going to have you be for us. So I don't know, I guess just looking forward, I think really focusing on using that draft pick to the best of your ability and even right going into, the third round, just really trying to pick someone, I've mentioned suspicions of who I think might be their third round pick to, but it's usually so you have it written down. I know you do. But usually, what we've seen in the years past, and it is who I'm thinking of the pick, is always someone who you're guessing probably won't make the league. It's probably a local person that the Storm wants to give a shot in training camp, and I love that they do that. But honestly, maybe I'm changing my person that I said that they would pick just to be like,
Delay Daniels.
thank you. That was my pick. Yes. And why not? Okay. Okay. We got it on record here. But anyway, I mean, I think if you want to, I'd love if they gave her a shot. She's who I've been thinking that they're gonna give a shot for a while. But if you have an idea of someone who actually, you really feel confident about, I'd be interested if they do that instead this year. And I think either way could be good. It just kind of depends on whoever this rebounding person they have up their sleeve is. And it could be Delia Daniels.
You know, truth be told, I guess my biggest issue with this entire presser is the fact that the organization, and I understand that you can't just outright say, hey, we're not going to be that great this year as we were last year. You can't publicly say that, right? But you can also, like Rowan said, talk about the future. How are you going to rebound from this? And, the next 5 years of the league, what that looks like for the Storm. And the next couple of draft classes are as low as they have ever been in the history of women's college basketball. From the first round to the second round, it's going to be loaded with talent. The work starts now. There were some questions. Go
Also
ahead.
to add really quick, I don't want to interrupt you, but also
You're good.
next season being the year that everything in free agency is going to look different. Why not just say, hey, we're throwing this together now. It's going to be what it's going to be. Our focus is next year. Go ahead.
And it feels like there were some lines of questioning that were kind of insinuating, hey, the next couple of years are going to be great. What's basically the team's plan? And I can't help but shake the feeling that one, there might not really be one yet, because if there was, I feel like that would be something that's actively talked about. You see other teams' GMs, you see other teams' leadership forces, whether they have interviews or they're talking about it in pressers, they're adamant about what their future looks like, about what the community around it looks like. You look at the Dallas Wings, And you talk about how they've been, kind of a futile franchise for the last decade. Okay, cool. But you look at the last 3 years, I mean, they've sold out season tickets. They have one of the biggest, really, as far as areas, um, in North Texas. I mean, they're the only team in North Texas. You have that community. I'm just not sure, as far as how other teams kind of benefited in a different way. They don't kind of have, 8, 10 different cities that have 500,000 people in it to kind of build, a new fan base and to kind of tap into that culture that of women's basketball. But we would love to hear that, I mean, it's kind of exciting to see new teams that are kind of expanding on the kind of momentum that women's basketball is receiving right now. But the fact that we kind of don't really get that from Seattle, I get it. It's only the first presser, right? But this is kind of the time to lay that groundwork, you know? And didn't kind of get that. It feels like we're putting all of our eggs in a basket and anticipating to compete for 2026, 2025, excuse me. And if you look at the teams that got better in the offseason, I mean, they're stacked. You look at Phoenix, great. You look at Minnesota, nice moves, signed a couple of overseas players I think are going to be really great. They signed Grace Berger, great. Even New York, still pretty potent, great team. The Sparks are going to be pretty good. I don't think they're going to be as bad as people advertise. The Sun, like I said earlier, might be pretty good. I don't think they're going to be terrible. They're not going to be like top two ladder team or something like that. They're not going to be that bad. There's excitement around the league, and considering the way that this team is going right now, doesn't feel like that. Like again, we're putting all our eggs in the basket to compete for this year, when it feels like we should kind of be showing the same attention to the next couple of years that are probably arguably the most important. You just lost Drew Lloyd. You lost Brianna Stewart and Sue Bird, less than 2.5 years ago now. It's like, what's next? And they're kind of stuck in translation for what it feels like.
It's really interesting, like when you talk about next year, because I kind of keep forgetting that they do have three first rounders next year. And they really could be positioned for some success. Okay, sorry. I'm doing some background things here to talk about the 2026 season. Um, like I don't know what they like having three first rounders in next year's draft seems like a really good thing. And say I don't know who like we're gonna assume they take Olivia Miles. Like so you've got Olivia Miles on a rookie contract. Uh per spot track, you've got Lexi Brown's contract through 26, if that's correct. Nico Mule's contracts obviously is there. Jordan Horston. Uh was that yeah, you've got what, three contracts through 26 right now? That's it's mm. And then obviously you add like an Olivia Miles, and I guess if they keep anyone from the rest, I don't know what they do. Um, yeah, I think you guys talked about it really well. Like I have no idea what their direction is because like is Skylar done after this season? What does NECA do if either or if Skylar's done or if she's staying here for like another year, right? Like Gabby's probably going to finally test free agency, right? Um, and then you've got like Alicia Clark will be 38. Like I don't know what she does at that point. Like we had one fan who was very adamant. They were like, "Oh, Alicia's got this," in our Alicia Clark segment. Um, like it, yeah. I'm just kind of confused. I want to know what the hell the plan is. Again, in a magical fantasy world, Paige says, "I'm not going to Dallas," and somehow you get her, but that's a fantasy world, right? Like until something else happens, and probably won't happen for a while because she's focusing on UConn and getting yelled at by Gino. Like that's kind of where they're at, right?
Two things, real quick. I'm kind of surprised that people are thinking about. One, the Dallas Wings are going to be really good. They got some really good pickups to anticipate the coming of Paige, which I think, again, this area, they're ready for her. I mean, I've talked to people about it in the local media sphere that haven't really talked about women's basketball in a while. They're excited for her. And two, the Indian and Faith are going to be great. Again, great pickups from the team. They got Spencer Howard and DeWan Bryant, these players. It would be great if the Storm could have got at least one of those players by chance, but no. So, but they got the players they wanted though, so that's all that matters.
Yeah, that's oh God, I forgot they have Dejanay. Oh, Jesus. Oh, they also signed Storm legend Micaiah Herbert Harrigan today. I forgot about that.
Yes.
Woo! So, yeah, I think coming away from this general day is I'm just wondering about the direction of this team and this franchise. So again, like they've got the draft picks this year and next year to make some noise in that regard, but I mean, and well, and also depending, as Rowan keeps bringing it up, whatever the hell they have up their sleeve. So, that's what we got for right now. Do we have anything as a last call before we get out of here?
I just hope I made any sense. I feel like I'm as confused as you. I'm like, guards, who is what?
Guards. Lexi
So
Brown shooting the three ball.
next time, hopefully, I'll have all my thoughts about just
I
so much
mean,
to think
I
about.
think that presser scrambled my brain a little
So
bit.
true.
I'll say this. I understand there is a need to turn the page. I get that, but you can't turn the page until the last chapter is written. And considering that this was how the Joe Lloyd era officially ended, you just kind of wish that there would have been a little bit more kind of thought to the way that it ended, the way that it was carried out. This presser. I mean, it's a hard situation. I understand that, but considering she won two championships here, it was a vital part of the community for a decade. I just don't think you're going to be able to replace that, in one off season, which is kind of the feeling that it felt like we were getting. And I understand that that's what you kind of have to do as a team. Literally, you have to move forward, but there's kind of the way to go about it, and it could have been better. Not gonna lie to you, it could have
Yeah.
been.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking as you were saying that eventually you do have to move on and, like it's healthy to move on, but I think you still need to address it in the proper way, and that's not what we got. It was kind of I don't know if it was a complete sweep under the rug, but it was kind of like, all right, we did what I heard was we did what we should do, and now it's done. And I'm like, like, yeah, yeah. It felt like, especially for someone who was around a long time with Jewel, we should have heard maybe a bit more from Noe about Jewel, right? Like, I don't, you know what I'm saying? I don't.
Yeah, I mean, man, listen, you can edit this out if you want, but it's just something that just does not feel right with literally every player of note leaving last season, and it not really being, addressed. It's the notion that players that want to be here are here. I mean, I understand that. I get that, you want to fit in with the culture. You kind of have to, abide by certain things. I understand that. That's how sports is, especially professional sports. There is culture, there are standards. But at the same time, are we following those own standards? Are we doing what we're saying that other players do? Are we following in those same footsteps? Sometimes it doesn't feel that way. But
Yeah.
2025 will be a season, to say the least, and we'll we'll see what goes on from here.
Yeah, well, and then I keep going back to it. Like, we think this is crazy, and I'm hoping we don't get another off the court thing.
Yeah.
But in terms of change, like we got even more to do next year, next off season. Like,
Which is why I would have loved to hear more about the future plan.
hmm
Like you guys have four great picks next year. You have a great pick this year. Again, I'm not saying as far as planning, strategy wise, I'm not expecting you to show us the war room and the big board,
but an
but
acknowledgement, right?
acknowledgement of what you have. You own the Los Angeles Sparks' future, their
hmm
immediate future. If they're not great within the next couple of years, you have some pretty good picks.
Yeah. No, that's again, I think it's amazing that it took my brain that long to think about that, but I was just kind of stuck with that ever since the presser. I was like, why don't I get this? Like, and it was that. There was no, it didn't feel like the table was set. Feels like I just showed up and everything's just kind of here and I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So, Um, and in my last piece to anyone that might doubt, players of note returning, you've got an entirely new bench. Entirely new. You're telling me none of those veterans with a franchise that has won multiple titles and that has a new facility didn't want to come back? Just in a vacuum? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't
It's
know,
kind of hard
Christian.
to say, man. It really
Crazy
is.
thing, right? Ugh.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. What do we know, huh? Fucking.
We'll see. We'll see, man. I can't tell you.
So, yeah, sorry to throw Rowan under the bus, but she did say that on February 14th, she was like, she's got a suspicion.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like watching Delia Daniels this year, there's a lot of versatility. You know what Seattle could use with
What?
Jordan Horson gone for the year?
What?
Versatility.
Right?
Huh? Hmm? I don't know. Let's get out of here. Uh
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I know Christian's excited. He's been chomping at the bit to write some stuff after that, so I'll get us out of here and I might see about looking at where the roster is right now. So I don't know. Talisa teased that they were doing something, so if they do, we'll be back. But it seems like we might be on the quieter side of things because again, technically a roster is largely full right now, and I don't know who else they might invite or whatever. There are still some decent veterans out there. The question is, do they want to be here? So, yeah, that's the February 18th. I'm gonna try to get this out as quick as I can. Um, yeah, if anything happens again in the near future, we'll be back. I love getting these guys together. Obviously Rowan had to go because it's just me and Christian on your screen here, but I don't think we're too bad, huh?
Not at
Until
all.
you say what?
Not at all, man. Not at all.
Well, yeah, we do our best, right? No
We
matter what
do.
our Twitter friends think. Anyway, until we see you next time, take care of yourselves, be well, do whatever you can to make today a great day.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, were you going to watch the Seattle Storm away games this year?
Away games. Well, Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, so I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. See you all here.